The following transmission is a conversation between myself and a Fallout modder known as Phobos, who gained community notoriety after being involved with late-stage development of a Fallout New Vegas mod known as The Frontier. The Frontier gained universal backlash following its release due to bad writing, depraved interactions, and questionable comments made by other members of the development team regarding specific members of the fanbase. During our conversation, we talk a little bit about Phobos' past in the Fallout community, his growth as a gamer, and most importantly, he gives us a small behind-the-scenes look at what is, objectively, the most controversial mod yet to be released for a Fallout game. It is important to note that while Phobos has, and continues to be, very outspoken about the Frontier development team and the questionable decisions that were made, his story is just one of many when it comes to the construction of this massive project that has spent the better part of a decade in the making. Like with many stories in the Wasteland, this is just one perspective of a greater truth, and I hope to be able to sit down and chat with other members of the development team to get a better understanding of the entire process of the construction of this massive mod. Remember that even within chaos, there is direction. Without further ado, the leader of the Outriders and a former Frontier dev, Phobos. So I suppose the best place to begin is basically, I most likely, very likely, put a little thing at the beginning saying like who you are specifically. But in your own words, how would you introduce yourself?
I'm Phobos. I've been playing Fallout for a significant portion of my life. I found it on my dad's computer when I was 5 years old because he was not the greatest at what he did as a parent because he let a 5-year-old play Fallout.
Well, you gotta get him started early, you know?
I also do mods, and I would say that I do content creation, but that's a lie. I tweet.
What kind of... So, like, you say that you would say that you do content creation. Was there I mean, obviously you say you tweet and stuff like that. Was there an original, like, form of content creation you originally had plans or ideas of doing, like streaming content creation, like what I do? You know, what kind of... When you say content creation, in your mind, what kind of stuff would you or have you been doing?
Well, I mean, over the years, I'd considered streaming. I'd considered back in 2015 when I was in college and learning the broadcasting setups and everything and the rules as they were. I considered getting into streaming, maybe YouTubing, that kind of stuff. But then I realized that pretty much everybody else in the college class I was in was doing that. And I realized how competitive of a market it is with not a great return on investment for time versus money earned.
Yeah. I was contemplating on that myself, and yeah, some of the like, it's so weird sometimes because I'll have two different videos that do like pretty like moderately the same, roughly the same in terms of like viewership and stuff like that, but the actual amount that they bring back in terms of, you know, monetary revenue can be wildly different, and I have no idea why, but you know, that's why I'm doing this and not working at YouTube.
Well, I mean, who really would want to work at YouTube?
It sometimes seems like nobody really works at YouTube.
Well, they've certainly got a lot of automated systems there.
Oh yes. So you haven't really done a whole lot of content creation, whether or not that is something you wanted to do or still have an interest in doing. But there has been some other stuff that you have done as part of, you know, content creation by another name, as part of the Fallout community and as part of gaming in general. What is like the earliest Like if you were to lay out your catalog, what would be the first thing that that maybe not put you on the map, but like where you began?
Well, my first real foray into the modding scene, and really, I guess the broader Fallout community as a whole, was when Project Arroyo actually. Well, I'll get back to what I was about to say, but Project Arroyo, I was there for the Reddit thread that actually got the project up and running, and I was like, oh, hey, I've got a great mic, I've got voice acting experience, I've got a broadcasting demo reel. I'll apply to this as a voice actor. And yeah, well, the initial management of Project Arroyo is no longer there, and I sometimes peek in there and see what they're up to because I'm still in the dev server. But Project Arroyo was what really got me involved with the broader Fallout community, I'd say. And I actually made the name of that thing. I don't know if they still have it on record, but I was the one who was like, "Why don't we call it Project Arroyo?"
And what was Project Arroyo?
That is a in progress Fallout 2 recreation.
Oh, is that the one that's remaking Fallout 2 in New Vegas's engine?
No, I believe that one's called Molten Clouds or something. Project Arroyo is the Fallout 4 remake of Fallout
Oh
2.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because I always get those two confused. Because there's one that's Fallout 1 being remade. I since you've said it, it's obvious now. Fallout 1 being remade in New Vegas's engine, and then, as you said, Project Arroyo being Fallout 2 made in Fallout 4's engine. Me specifically, I in the like grander scheme of things, I learned about I learned about Project Arroyo relatively recently. Is it a more recent project? Because by the way you described it, it kind of sounds like it's something that's been around for at least like a couple of years at this point.
Well, I mean, you could really say that of any mod project. All of the major mod projects, Fallout London, Fallout New California, etc., the one that we will be getting to in a moment. All of them started a long time. I'd say around 2014 to 2016 was the real advent of larger scale modding projects. But yeah, Project Arroyo, I think that was around like 2017, 2018. It got started. I might be completely misremembering this, but
Yeah.
but now they've got a pretty good setup on things. They've got a Trello that they run everything out of.
Do you think that well, because like I don't know. You mentioned that like all the mods kind of like started around the same like basic time period. Do you think there was a big reason for that? Because when you like look back at it and you think of like all the big projects that are coming out, um, specifically like the concept that they all started around the same time. Do you think that there was anything that like kind of sparked that? Because especially for how many large scale projects starting around roughly the same time, what
A sort of single event that was a catalyst for
yeah,
it, you'd say?
what was the catalyst event for that? Do you know? Do you have any speculations? Is this something you've never thought of until I mentioned it? Like,
I don't really mean to disparage the game, but I think the catalyst for all of that was Fallout 4 because, I mean, Fallout 4 did a lot of things great, but in a lot of ways it disappointed a lot of people, especially in regards to dialogue, player choice, player agency, that kind of thing with the reduced 4 options. And I think a lot of people wanted the kind of experience that they get in like Fallout 2, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, where you had a lot of agency in what you decided to do, and the choices that you made would affect the outcomes of certain situations.
right?
So, and yeah, with it being around 2015, 2016 that a lot of the big mod projects started, I know Frontier was started before Fallout 4 was released. That was started, I think, in 2014. as was New California. Obviously, New California was in production forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Fallout 4 was the driving force behind so many projects of such a significant scope happening.
Do you think that maybe with or without our knowledge, there are such big projects like going into the future that are the result of Fallout 76?
That's a good question. I mean, anybody can admit that at launch 76 was it was certainly in a state.
Yeah, that's definitely putting it one way. But like, I more so, I mean, like, because like you said that Fallout 4 was kind of the catalyst because of certain aspects of that game, taking away specific RPG elements or decreasing their viability or their situation, and emphasizing others that were a little bit more of a deviation from the norm in terms of older Fallout games. Do you see the same kind of faults or lackings in enough of a degree in Fallout 76 to be enough to kind of push people towards that modding kind of situation in the same way that you saw and identify situations from Fallout 4 that led to people modding for like New Vegas and other mods?
I don't really think so. I think it's kind of like once you get the ball rolling in that regard, it's never going to stop because you've got new projects cropping up all the time. You've got Fallout Ashfall, which recently just got announced. I think there's somebody who's working on a New Orleans project that they project to have out in like 2030 or something like that.
I do remember seeing stuff about that on Twitter a while back, and I was also kind of excited for that. I was following that for a little bit. I think it actually turned out to not really be an actual thing. I think it was just somebody like grabbing for clout.
Somebody with a lot of ideas and not a lot of skills.
Yeah, because I think I saw some stuff. TKS Mantis, I think he pointed out some stuff like some of the art that the account was using that they were like pushing forward was art from like other non-Fallout related stuff, and there was all kinds of inconsistencies and stuff. I don't remember exactly, but I just remember being excited to learn more about that, and then TKS Mantis pointed out some stuff, and I looked at it and I'm like, okay, yeah, I think he's actually kind of onto something here.
Well, that's unfortunate because I was also looking forward to it, but
Yeah.
I mean that's the fate of most of these things. I'm sure there's dozens of projects that started up, and I even had my own that I specifically wanted because I was a bit disappointed in the player choice and agency and Fallout 4. God, this was even before Far Harbor came out. I remember I wanted to do fights against pirate boats by setting the ceiling really low on a water world space and reskinning vertibirds into boats.
Oh my god. I mean, they were able to make a functioning train in Fallout 3 just by replacing some dude's head. So, I mean,
Well, actually, they didn't replace his head. It's a glove. Because I'm a snooty Gek user, and I know the intricacies of the modding engines for antiquated software.
was it like an equipable item that was in like the glove slot, and it just turns your head into a train?
So basically, in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, when you're creating an armor, it would have a category for armor add-on,
Yeah.
which would be like gloves, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the train hat, as people so affectionately refer to it as, is actually an armor add-on. And you can see that in the images of it because the person that is wearing the train hat does not have a hand.
Interesting. So you're saying that theoretically somebody could hack into the Fallout 3 mainframe, acquire this glove, attach it, and then say make an episode of a YouTube video where the Thomas the Tank Engine theme song is playing in the background, and you're just running around with a train for a head, shooting people with a railway rifle.
Oh yes, I would warn such a person in advance that this would be an incredibly horrible video because the specific reason that they made it an armor add-on is that hats, torso, armor, legs, that kind of stuff, not visible in first person in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, and I think it's actually the same in Skyrim, Fallout 4, and Fallout 76. I don't think you can see your legs if you look down. But what you can see are your arms and your hands. So the train would be visible. You wouldn't be able to see anything, man.
I don't think you're truly grasping the power of the Thomas the Tank Engine meme. I think you are misconstruing its power to pull in views.
I think it'll pull in views. I just think it might be a little nauseating to watch with
Right.
the train flailing all over the place.
Little bit of a sensory overload in a sense. Let's go back real quick though. As you talked about how your introduction to Fallout was finding it on your dad's computer when you were 5.
As a wee little lad, it helped me learn.
As a small child. What so like I mean, you were 5. Like that was where you started off. Where did you go from there? Because like for example, I can't remember how old I am, but I remember having I have very vivid visions of being in my dad. For a while my dad was living in the upstairs level, well, not the upstairs level, but he was living in a room at his mom, my grandmother's house, because she had a pretty decent house. He was living there for a while, and he had his computer set up in a room like right next to in another room, and it was like StarCraft and stuff on there, and World of Warcraft, and all the like big popular games from like that point in time. And so I have very very clear and vivid memories of playing StarCraft on his computer as a, I mean, I don't know, maybe I was like 10, 11, something like that, not as young as you were, but like that was that, and like Sonic and Mario and stuff, like that's where my video gaming journey began, and this is regrettably where I've ended up. But where did you go from there? So like you were 5, you started by finding Fallout on your dad's computer. What's the next couple of chapters look like?
Well, once my dad figured out I was playing Fallout, he was a bit alarmed, but impressed by the fact that it helped me start reading at a level that was a little bit above what one would expect of a 5-year-old. But then he introduced me to his old NES and his old SNES, stuff like that. I got really into Super Mario Brothers 3 and Super Mario World for a bit there.
Classics.
Then I got my Game Boy, which was the first console that I owned. Well, not a Game Boy Advance, with Pokemon Sapphire on it. And I specifically remember it was Pokemon Sapphire because when me and Dad were on a road trip, I was asleep, and he killed Kyogre and saved over, and I didn't have the chance to capture it. I just remembered this, and I'm very angry with him now. Then from there, I ended up moving away from the town I was living in, because a town of 500 people where there's one person my age is no place to raise a 5-year-old.
Of course not.
So when I became about 8, ended up moving back to the big city of our area, which it's not really that big of a city, but proportionally, it's the biggest thing in this region.
Yeah.
I got a PS2 and I got a GameCube. Played a ton of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Got really into Final Fantasy X, the Metal Gear Solid series, stuff like that. And yeah, from there it was just your pretty standard gamer journey. Fallout 3 came out, and I was like, oh my god, I haven't played Fallout since my dad, since I moved away from my dad's, lost access to Fallout 2. And I started Fallout 3, and I was enjoying myself. I did a bunch of stuff in Megaton, ended up going down to Super Duper Mart for Moira, got wiped by a squad of Talon Company, put the game down, didn't play it for a week, and then it dawned on me that exact thing, minus Talon Company, it was a pack of Death Claws, but that exact thing happened to me in Fallout 1 on the way to Shady Sands. And at that point, I started it back up, started a new game, and absolutely fell in love with Fallout 3. And then I fell in love with Fallout New Vegas, only to fall out of love with it this year, and fell in love with Fallout 4, only to fall out of love with Fallout 4 shortly after Fallout 4 came out. And same thing with 76. I just loves my Fallouts.
Fallout 4 had a, because I'm trying to like remember back on Fallout 4. It had a very weird introduction, because like everybody was super hyped for it. I have, again, very clear and vivid memories of working at so you're Canadian, you live in Canada, you live on the East Coast though. I don't know if you know what Kroger is.
I've seen a Kroger or two.
Okay, cool. It's an East Coast American store. I never know if stuff like that is too widely known in the same region of Canada. But my point is, on the West Coast here, there's the Kroger has a couple of other like subsidiaries that it owns. One of them on the West Coast is a store called Fred Meyer's. And I used to work at one, and I worked in the home electronics department around the time that Fallout 4 came out. And I have very vivid memories of watching the announcement trailer, like the gameplay trailer, where we saw, the one I'm talking about, where you see like the weapon.
No, I have incredibly vivid memories of the entire Fallout 4 marketing campaign, because the entire Fallout 4 marketing campaign was they showed it at E3. And they were like, "See y'all in November."
It was fucking bananas. I have yet to be a part of a hype train as big as Fallout 4.
It was the only thing I was able to think of from E3 until the game came out. And I swear to God, I stayed up 24 hours just playing that game nonstop.
I worked in the home electronics department of Fred Meyer's, because Fred Meyer's is a department store, and so it has like a clothing store, electronics store, grocery department, stuff like that. And I worked in the electronics department, and I think it was like a day or two, maybe 3, I can't remember exactly, but like a couple days before Fallout 4 was actually, going to be put on the shelves and ready to sell, we had like boxes of it in the back. And so like every day before launch, I'd go to work. First thing I would do is look in the back, look at all those boxes of Fallout 4, go to work, and before I left, I would look at those boxes again, and it just drove me insane. And then when the game actually released, it was kind of a big deal, because where I lived, it was a very like small residential kind of neighborhood, and there was actually like I wouldn't say there was an actual line, but there was like a decent number of people that actually showed up that same evening to pick up a copy of Fallout 4, specifically Fallout 4. It wasn't like, Black Friday busy or anything, but it got a little busy. And it was weird because, the game dropped. There's still plenty of people that were like really loving it, but then there was all this kind of like weird other stuff that people were talking about. Like the 4 options dialogue thing sucked. A lot of stuff about the writing and the quests and stuff not being as good as they were in like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas and stuff like that.
Mostly Fallout New Vegas. Let's not kid ourselves. When people complain about Bethesda games, there's one thing they bring up.
Yeah. But then, like, it was so weird because, like, the game still sold, like, like hotcakes. It was fucking massively, wildly, hugely success. But then, like, there's still all this other stuff to be, critical of. And it's, I don't know, it was really weird because it was like, it was like such a good game, but at the same time, not, I guess like it was.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
By it was a good game, but it was also not.
Yeah, like it was a good game, but it wasn't a good Fallout game, or maybe not a good Fallout game, but not the same level of Fallout game that we kind of were expecting,
I think, and if you'll allow me to go off on a bit of a tangent here, I think what it was they initially wanted the game to follow a set protagonist, like it was just Nate. And this also goes back to a super old Kotaku leak that got pretty much all the details about the cryo vault and everything right, and it said that you would play as a security officer from the vault. I think they initially wanted to have a character-driven experience with a preset character, like you'd see in a game like The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
But then I feel like, to some extent, they sort of went 50-50 on that and the standard Fallout experience, and I think it's the fact that they kind of did a little bit of both that really hurt Fallout 4. Because, and I know this is going to be super controversial, I think Fallout as a setting can work for anything. If they wanted to have a preset game with a preset protagonist, I think that could have worked out great.
Oh no, yeah, but, like I can't remember how many times I've said it on the record, but I'm pretty sure I've said it multiple times on the record. If they made like, if just like Bethesda just made more spin-off games, like spin-offs of Skyrim. Spin-offs of Skyrim, spin-offs of Elder Scrolls.
Just have Arcane make a game where we play as Kellogg during his journey across the wasteland. It would be incredible.
Or like, like LA Noire, right? You got that in your brain. LA Noire, but it's in the Fallout universe, and it's about, corporate espionage at Robco, something like that. Where like
something like that, or a Disco Elysium type experience where you're not really doing any combat, you're just playing as like a civilian member of the population. But Fallout as a setting is just so intoxicating that all of these concepts could work incredibly, and they would sell like hotcakes.
Yeah,
like, and I don't know why they haven't done it.
There's just so much about the Fallout universe that is so ripe for content, and it as you said, it just hasn't been made.
I think that's something that 76 has done kind of well in that regard, though. Like they have that lady from Georgia that lives in the Treetop Settlement. Mm-hmm. They talk about Blue Ridge covering a massive area. Like I'd say that they're a caravan company that rivals the Crimson Caravan, and it's only like 30 years after the war.
Yeah. However, as we all know, unfortunately, not every idea when it pertains to Fallout is necessarily a good one or one that can be executed properly, which, since we've been kind of just talking and bantering for a little bit,
building up to the real issue at hand.
Yeah, getting to know you a little bit for the fucking big drop here. For those who actually know who you are and those who don't know who you are, we've kind of been pussyfooting around the bigger issue and kind of the
hello comment section. I will be avoiding reading you when this video is published.
Yes, Phobos is a both. Should I say is or was?
Was, because I've had no involvement with the project since about 20 days after we launched it.
Yeah, Phobos was at one point a developer on Fallout: The Frontier, which
Boo! Grab his dick and twist it!
Oh god. As is security. But yes, for those of you, for the 5 people in the audience who don't know what Fallout: The Frontier is,
it's the nasty lizard sex mod.
Yes, it is a mod for Fallout New Vegas, which takes place, unfortunately, in my hometown of Portland, Oregon, around the same time of Fallout New Vegas, and everything's all snowy and frozen over and stuff like that. And the NCR is fighting the Legion, and a Brotherhood offshoot is there. And then there's also drugged up lizards that you can engage with, or that try to engage with you, except for those 2 NPCs and it was
an experience.
Just Google it. I'm sure you'll find Remy's video or something like that, and he'll.
I actually highly recommend Remy's video, because he did a great deal to exonerate me for a lot of blame that was being thrown my way at the time. And I will forever be grateful to Remy for this.
That is the Remy Down Under YouTube channel if you want to check out his stuff, or just Google Fallout, or go to YouTube search and just search for.
It's pretty much the first result.
Yeah, Fallout: The Frontier. I'm pretty sure his video will be the first thing that pops up. But the reason that you are here today specifically, besides just being called out as being involved with the Frontier publicly, live in front of all these people.
Oh, you've doomed me, Toshi.
I have. This J'accuse. Bring out the gun. But yes, the reason you are here specifically is because at the time of this recording, it's probably been like a couple weeks or something. But in early February, the Fallout Frontier rework mod or rework project that was in development to try to revamp and fix a lot of things in the Frontier itself closed up shop. Their Discord is now a general modding server, and as far as I've seen, a lot of the original devs have gone on to their own thing. In a video I put out a couple days after the announcement was made on the Discord server, I had somebody comment that said that there's still activity going on. It's like smaller things. I think it's like Rose City Stories or something like that.
Yes, some people were talking about wanting to make an episodic content series, and I mean, just let it die. I was like, just let it die a month after we released it.
Do you know anything about these Rose City Stories? Is that even what they're called?
Apparently, it's going to feature more Skitters content, which, I mean, I will always support. Skitters is the best companion, by far.
Skitters is a small, well, comparatively quite large white spider that you can find in the Frontier, and you can take them as a companion.
She's a little cutie. Jamila did a really good job on the model and the animations and everything.
Mm-hmm. Tremendously weak though. It has like 5 health points. will die instantly. But
Super weak.
But there's a mod where you can give her a gun, which is just
yes, because
epic.
Clanky 4 is the single greatest person. Like, you know what? all of the Devil's Wish experiences aside, I have seen Clanky 4's load order. He has hundreds of mods in there that were just used for like a 15-second video that he put an ungodly amount of effort into. I cannot imagine giving a jumping spider the ability to just pull up on you with a 9mm handgun, but that son of a bitch did it. He is a master of his craft.
Fantastic. So yes, you were a developer for the Frontier. The Frontier released middle. Yeah, insert why are we here just to suffer meme. And then the rework started, and then eventually the rework shuttered. So I guess more so you are here to give your accounts of your history with the Frontier, talk about whatever it is you feel that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, give a little bit of a post-mortem now that it's good and dead.
Yeah. So, what's the deal? What happened? When did you begin? And where did things start? It all went wrong meme.
Well, there's a lot of things that happened, and honestly, I don't even know that we'll be able to cover them all in this video without making it a multitude of uploads.
This is podcast episode whatever with Phobos, part 1 of 12.
Part 72 of the Chris Chan Frontier documentary.
Yeah, it's gonna put the Chris Chan document. What is it? Geno 2.1. Is that his account name? Yeah, something like that. His Chris Chan 72 episodes so far. Chris Chan documentary. Oh
honestly, unironically, there's enough just general content in the Frontier, both good and bad, that you could probably make a similarly length video series.
I believe it.
But I joined the project. I think it was either January of 2019 or January of 2020, or might have been the December preceding those Januaries. I'm pretty sure it was December 2019. But TG Spy just messaged me out of nowhere. Because of my association with Outlander and Riku, who were already secondary content developers and testers for the Frontier, and he was just like, hey, we need playtesters for the Frontier, because nobody fucking does anything here. And I playtested the shit out of that mod. Didn't really help compared to the hundreds of thousands of people and their unique bugs. Remind me to send you a video at the end. But there was this one where the Crusaders Tower just took off into space like a rocket. And I couldn't tell you how that happened. But, I mean, honestly, I enjoyed having the opportunity to play the Frontier as a playtester before the broader community got their hands on it, because I had been following the Frontier since they first announced it back in 2015, and I thought the concept was super interesting. Thought the idea of continuing the Courier's story in another wasteland was great, and I mean, I did have a lot of fun with it. Even the very poopy NCR route, because as much as the unique gameplay sucked, I really liked having the unique gameplay. Stuff like driving around the tanks, the asteroid shooting minigame, stuff like that. It added a freshness to New Vegas, which for me had been very lacking.
It's funny that you bring up those specifically, the tank thing and then the asteroid shooting minigame. I don't know if it's a skill issue, but or just like a taste, a flavor issue, but I did not enjoy driving the tanks around. Like, I hated it. I don't know if it was like a personal thing. Like, I don't like tank mobility, tank combat in general. I don't know. I've never
Oh
played
yeah,
War of the
I
Tanks.
hate tank controls in anything.
Yeah.
Like I did just like the overpowered aspect of rolling up on a group of people and firing a shell into them,
Oh
and
yeah.
that was kind of the appeal of it to me. But there was also like Devil's Wish designed his sequences really really weird. Like you, even during the mandatory tank segment, you were faced with so many enemies that like you can't be expected to clear it on your first try, even on
Fucking
easy mode.
thank you. I've been ever since I first played that. When the mod first dropped, and still putting out episodes and stuff for it. I played the tank combat thing, and I was thinking to myself the entire time, like, how is anybody in the world supposed to make it through this without cheating or doing so much ammo grinding literally right before this, which is so fucked up because it's like when you're going down the end, I guess no matter what, you have to go on this mission. If you're following a main story and you don't just walk out into the wilderness, you have to do this mission. And like the moment right before it is right when you get to the frontier. So unless you're like boots down in Portland, immediately run out into the
I
wilderness.
think you might actually be a bit mixed up here because the tank combat segment is actually the beginning of Act 2,
No.
which is
I'm. Oh well, okay, yeah. So I was thinking of the tank escort mission.
oh, don't get me wrong. There's an absurd amount of enemies there too. Like Devil's Wish, and I want to preface this by saying the NCR main quest, the whole thing was done by one guy, Devil's Wish, and I'm gonna shit talk the guy a lot later, but I will say he is an incredibly talented scripter in many regards. Like even the haters of the Frontier gotta admit the wizardry he did with cutscenes and stuff like that is just like unprecedented in New Vegas.
Oh no, yeah, like the for everything that has and probably will continue to be said about the frontier, it is still impossible to deny that the frontier on a technical aspect is amazing. Like they went, especially Zalandro, because I for the audience, Zalandro is the one who actually managed to get vehicles, like actual drivable vehicles, working in Fallout New Vegas's game engine. So
Well, I mean, we did have drivable vehicles. We had like I think there might be one or two vehicles that still use the legacy driving system, but it was really shitty.
yeah.
Is the thing. You can see it in some old trailers too, like when they're doing the jump over the overpass when you're driving up to the Enclave facility. God, why did I like all of the time that I spent on that mod? It's so bad. It's so bad.
Well, it's weird because from like the back end, because you guys are always working on like the technical stuff and the artistic and the creative stuff. From like that back end, you don't see the bigger picture and like how it all fits together. You're just focusing on a very small aspect. Like, so have you played any of the modern Hitman games? So like Hitman 1, 2,
Oh
or 3?
God, yeah, I love the modern Hitman games.
So like for context, the modern Hitman games compared to the older ones, the older games are still, very fun, very enjoyable. I cut my teeth on Blood Money, fucking like solo blind play that shit. But I don't know why I added solo in there. It's a single player game. But I comparatively speaking, the maps are very small. Some of like one of the larger maps in Hitman Blood Money, for example, is like 3 different levels of a casino, and 2 of them are right on top of each other, and the third one is down on the main floor. But in the modern Hitman games, which Hitman 1, like the new one, came out in 2017, I want to say. Something like that.
Yeah, I think 2017.
Yeah. And then the last one, Hitman 3, dropped 2020, I think. 2021. I can't remember.
2020. I think the DLC might have wrapped up last year, early on.
Possibly. But yeah. But point is, very large maps, a lot of stuff to do. And I was playing earlier today, and I'm in like a vineyard or something like that, and I'm standing there and I'm waiting for, you know, my target to do his thing and stuff like that. And my eye just like fell on this plant that was sitting on a table and something. And it's, you know, nothing spectacular. It's just this little, you know, leafy green kind of vine ivy looking kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, that looks nice. That looks very, very nice, very detailed. And then I had that moment where my brain like suddenly pulled out from that leaf and just like took everything else into account. I'm like, oh my God, for as good as this single pot with this plant on it, or this plant in it, sitting on top of this table looks, they did that for this entire map, this entire massive vineyard with rows and rows of grapevines, a full, you know, grape processing facility, a secret internal area where there's like this secret cabal meeting area underneath this underneath the vineyard owner's like little Tuscan summer home and stuff like that. And it's just such a massive map, but it's also meticulously detailed and like incredibly well lit and very densely populated. And it's like when you're working on larger projects like that, you're assigned to very specific things, like, hey, we need you to make this, or we need you to do this specifically. We need you to dress this location to look like this. You're just focused on those areas, and you don't see or recognize or realize a lot of the bigger picture that's happening around you. And it sounds like that's kind of what your situation was. You had a lot of stuff that you were working on, and you were enjoying working on it, and it looked awesome and cool and everything. But then when you pull out and you take a lot of the rest of it into account, it kind of gets dwarfed a little bit there.
Oh yeah, like so much stuff in the Frontier feels really insignificant. Like there's a lot of stuff that doesn't even necessarily have a reason to be there. Pardon me. As an example, the White Rabbit Hole, the Green Ferry, those 2 strip clubs that are right outside the NCR airport. They don't really serve a purpose other than giving that, oh look, New Vegas, it has hookers vibe. And likewise, but on the other side of the spectrum, you have stuff like Salt Town, which plays massively into the bigger picture, because in a land that's covered in ice, it's super important to have access to salt, both for food preservation and for ice clearing. Or you have, I think it was called Irvington, where they have a hydroponic garden underneath that gets produce out to the region.
Yep.
So there's a lot of stuff where the details really matter a lot, and then there's stuff where the details are just kind of there in the Frontier for flavor. Like the Snowblinds, they ended up making up the majority of the Legion. They were a tribe that the NCR had a bunch of encounters with, a bunch of hostile encounters that ended up with a lot of dead tribe members. So they ended up joining the Legion, but at the same time, their presence isn't really necessary in the grander scheme of things. It's just like, oh, there was this tribe called the Snowblinds. Now they're the Legion.
Yeah, I watched a video yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. But it was about the whole. It was like a 2-year-old video at the point of watching it, but it was about the whole not a lot of, but a decent amount of the stuff that happened around the Yandere dev or the Yandere simulator game and its developer Yandere dev.
That old shit show.
Yep. But to your point, one of the things that was talked about in the video game or in the video was that the dev was adding a lot of stuff that didn't need to be a part of the game because it didn't serve any sort of player experience.
That is what we like to refer to as feature creep. And holy sweet Jesus, is the Frontier full of it.
Yep. In Yandere dev, one of the points of feature creep was at one point, in older versions of the game, you could just leave your house and then boom, you're at school. In later versions of the game, you leave your house, then you have to bike to school, and then you're at school. And the biking didn't really serve any purpose functionally in the game. Like, I guess you could make the argument that it adds sort of a little bit of realism to the I'm an anime high school student bicycling to school and stuff like that. But then there's like nothing really you can do in that bicycling to school world space. So it's just there to be there, or there because the creator thought it would be cool, but in actuality, it's just tedium. Yeah, and as you said, it definitely feels like there's a lot of stuff in the Frontier that is definitely succumbed to feature creep.
Oh god, yeah. Honestly, I would classify the entirety of Act 3 and Act 4, aka the Enclave Space Station and Trip Vault, as pure feature creep. It's just someone looking to show off at, look at the spectacle of what I can do, but it doesn't really add anything to the Frontier.
Yeah.
Like, the primary I find it mind-boggling looking back that the entire pitch for the mod was the NCR and the Legionnaire fighting over the city of Portland. They both have significantly more advanced equipment than their regular branches. What are you going to do about this? And you only have like 2 skirmishes with the Legion in the entirety of the NCR campaign. And it's mind-boggling. It feels like it takes a back seat to the Enclave. You're just kind of thrust back into it.
I'm thinking back on that, and like, yeah, you're right. There was the point on the bridge where you get your shit kicked in, and then the point with Hardcase where you're playing as Hardcase, and you're the one doing the shit kicking before dying.
And that's it. You'll basically never encounter a hostile legionary again unless you wander onto their side of the map.
Yeah, that is really weird. I hadn't put that together. Wow. Okay.
I think the inclusion of the Enclave period in the Frontier was just a mistake, and I sort of this is gonna make a lot of Enclave fans mad, which isn't very hard. I feel like it was kind of pandering, like they were there just to be there.
I could definitely see that. What was like? Because you said you joined in like 2019, early 2020, something like that.
Yeah. Basically, when I joined, the mod was complete except for the NCR finale, and that's just because of like how much is going on there and how much scripting Devil's Wish had to do for it. But I do think it's kind of funny that the NCR, being the original whole point of the mod, was the last campaign that was completed.
Yeah. Especially since the mod released in 2021, like January 2021, and you were there for like a year, maybe 2 years.
About a year.
Yeah.
It was definitely, I was just there for a year.
Yeah. So like, what were you doing? What did they? Because as by your own words, the mod was practically finished. So.
Well, I mean, we were waiting on Devil's Wish to finish his NCR main quest,
Mm-hmm.
which he did around, I want to say, September of 2020. Yeah, about September of 2020, the NCR main quest was functionally complete. Like, you could do the final boss fight. We didn't have ending slides implemented yet,
Mm-hmm.
but sorry, what was the question again, Toshi?
I mean, like what were you there for? What were you brought
Oh,
on to
my
do?
role was I was supposed to play test all of the quest lines, make sure that nothing broke in between the merges, like you know how you prevented Celus from being interrogated,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Which and some of which still fell through the cracks because as great as these engines are for user generated content, you can't account for a lot of the variables that are in play when you have something of such a scale.
Right.
So they had me playtesting. At a certain point, I sold my soul to get the role of content creator, so
Yeah.
that I could make the Breach Outreach, which is the radio station which has news reports on all of the things that you do. I worked on that in collaboration with Agent Fuse, who did the design of the Breach Outreach headquarters, and Naz in the Dark, who wrote the characters and stuff. I wrote all of their terminal entries. I came up with the core of the characters, as it were, personality traits and stuff like that. But I had to sell my soul to get there.
Was that
I
Sorry, go ahead. You finish.
I did one of the things that the Frontier was heavily criticized for.
Yeah, because
I wrote the dialogue. It was me, Austin. It was always me, Austin.
oh no.
No. To be fair, technically, I didn't write the dialogue. That was Kanye West
Yes.
and a couple of. I literally just pulled shit out of my ass. I think I still have the text document that I made around here. And then the guy that was supposed to implement it only implemented the options to have sex with the thing. I wrote 13 dialogue options for various ways of saying I will now kill you. And somehow they didn't make it into the game because somebody didn't want to kill their waifu.
Wait, for kill who?
The Death Claw. You know the one.
So, hold on. You're saying that you wrote 13 additional bits of dialogue
For initiating combat with the Death Claw, yes.
Hold on. You wrote 13 additional bits of dialogue for something that was originally supposed to be and is not, because it didn't get implemented properly, something that was originally supposed to be a Wild Wasteland specific joke that did not in the end get attached to Wild Wasteland.
And none of the hostile dialogue options got attached either. All of the ones to initiate, as it were, made it in, but not the hostile ones. And this was the process of me selling my soul. I was told, write as much dialogue as you can for this encounter, as many skill checks as you can, and we will give you content creator.
But they ended up not using any of those skill checks, correct?
No. They used like the 7 positive responses to the creature's advances, but none of the 14 hostile options made it in. And like I was out here quoting Warhammer 40K and shit. People would have thought it was funny.
So I'm gonna add a little bit of context, because once again we're pussyfooting around the issue. There's a Deathclaw encounter in the Frontier that you can encounter and engage in assumed sexual relations with. And
there's nothing assumed about it.
Well, there is, because you don't actually see it happen. You just that's another thing too. The whole
but as somebody who participated in it, I can assure you to the intent of the people who designed the encounter.
But I mean, like that. Yes, that is the whole point of the encounter, because it's the joke is that you engage in the positive dialogue, fuck the giant lizard, and then wake up with all your bones broken, and the game is like, haha, your bones, your limbs are all broken because you had sex with a massive several ton lizard monster, but then
I
your
think
bones don't even break.
I think the exact thing that I put for that text box was something along the lines of battered and broken. You walk out of the cave, and every god in heaven is looking down on you with disdain. Well, except for maybe two of them, and that was referring to the other people who designed the encounter.
It's just so weird. And so
It is very weird.
It's so weird and it's so stupid because it's like it's supposed to be a joke that only appears in Wild Wasteland, but then it doesn't appear only as part of Wild Wasteland, and the punchline of the joke isn't even there. So it's neither of the things.
It just ended up looking nasty as hell.
God damn it. And especially since you wrote 14 additional dialogue bits, which I would imagine would be at least one negative going into combat dialogue option per special point, and then probably like one or two other ones.
There was a couple in there for perks like Purifier or completed challenges like Lord Death of Murder Mountain.
That makes sense. Wow.
But yeah, those didn't make it in, sadly, and we got what we got.
An opportunity to have sex with a lizard. Fantastic. Well, that's definitely a good segue into this next question. When did you feel it was all falling apart?
Oh, God. You know what? I think I can tell you the exact moment when I started to realize this was all falling apart.
Please do, because it clearly wasn't the lizard sex scene.
It was... I think it was January 11th. We released on January the 15th, right? Something like that. I remember we were doing a lot of, like, big teasers in January, and at one point, like, we did a little bit of a stream. And we had a couple of the devs in there with TG Spy. Everybody was shooting the shit. And we got a bunch of people in the Twitch chat that were asking, is there an Enclave route? Is there an Enclave route? And I will say that a lot of the jokes that got directed at the Enclave were just a result of like years of people being like, oh, when Enclave? Are we getting an Enclave route? Nobody wanted to make an entire extra main quest line for a mod that already got feature creeped half to death. Mm-hmm. And it was just some kind of light ribbing at them. But then these fuckers, and I should I name names? I guess if this video might end up popular, I won't name names. But one of the other devs, like 7 days after a little event known as January 6th, 2020, don't know if you've heard about it, one of the other devs made the genius comment that the Enclave are just a bunch of Trump supporters. Oh, no. And this was just a couple of days, not even a week after a lot of those people were made very angry.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I feel like that's the point at which it really, really started to fall around. But there were people that were targeting the Frontier for downfall for whatever reason. I remember very early after release, we had a little bit of a controversy with Tumblr where they were accusing us of being Nazi sympathizers because Dragbody had the audacity to be born with the name Richard Spencer and put his name in a scoreboard for the shooting range.
Yeah, I can see how that might be misconstrued in a sense. Names do tend to fly around a little bit.
Yep. But honestly, there's so many factors that contributed to its downfall. Chief among which, definitely the discovery that Zoo the skunk was making some art that isn't uh, necessarily
Safe for
morally
life.
okay to be making.
There's safe for work. There's not safe for work, and then there's not safe for life kind of stuff. That's
If
what
it
I'm
makes me want to claw my eyes out,
from what I'm
it's not safe
remembering.
for life.
Yeah.
And I will say that entirely falls on the core team. They should have been more thorough in vetting themselves and the rest of the devs, honestly,
mhm.
um, because that stuff was easy to find,
Yeah.
and I mean, the only thing I can really say in my defense there is that I didn't particularly care about the profiles of the various members on social media, but also I'm not super into furry art
Hmm.
myself, and if I know somebody is a furry that draws furry art, I'm not going to go check out their art accounts.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if I had, you bet your ass I would have been telling TG Spy about that right away. Because Jesus Christ.
Yeah, especially with everything that because
Yeah, because it's not like the mod didn't already have a character that had some unfortunate implications about them that I told them they should have changed the dialogue of in March of 2020.
you're talking about that.
America.
Oh, I was gonna say because I mean everybody's always so fucking hype on America and shit, but then everybody forgets that I'm forgetting her name. That girl who's all fucking sarcastic and draws porn and jokingly offers you,
Oh,
yeah,
May.
May.
Yeah.
That's it.
May was a Life is Strange reference that I think kind of fell flat because the overlap of people who play Life is Strange and people who play Fallout might not be that significant.
It's also the fact that she's an underage person.
Yeah, that joke shouldn't have even been made in the first place in the context that the character is underage. Like that's just a major bad move on Nazen's part.
And May in Life is Strange is in college.
Yeah. Yeah. I do look back and reflect on a lot of these things and think like what was going through people's heads when they designed this stuff. I know what was going through their heads when they designed the America stuff because they explicitly told me when I was like, "Hey, calling her little slave girl is a little bit much."
Yeah.
They were like, "Yeah, but it's supposed to make the player feel disgusting." Yeah, 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 but it also kind of makes me want to kill myself just having read it. So but I mean, that's another fault of the Frontier. And I had a couple of people coming to me for venting and advice from the rework team.
Mhm.
It's that there was a lot of elitism based on your role. Like, if you were a core team member, what you say goes. None of the side content devs, none of the playtesters or anything, their feedback was not super important. It was just basically you are the core team member who created this stuff. It is up to your discretion, which was a mistake.
What what happened to the Frontier? What you said you've been following it for ever since it was first talked about in 2015 and then got brought on in late 2020, 2019, 2020, something like that. What happened?
Honestly, I think it was kind of always gonna turn out this way. I was honestly a bit shocked by the reception because people like if you go to the comments now on the Frontier trailers, people are like, "Wow, haha, this looks so bad. This looks crazy, blah blah blah. But if you went like back in 2018 to that trailer where it used whatever song that Metal Gear Solid 5 also used as a trailer, it was just endless hype. And I think the thing is that people really overhyped themselves because they had such a long period of time to. I know I certainly overhyped myself up to the frontier, and I mean, nothing good can come of that. If you go in expecting perfection, um, if it's just passingly good, it'll be good. But if it's got elements that are really bad, it'll be really bad.
Kind of like the there's a famous quote, saying, story, I guess story, about Albert Einstein. Yeah, Albert Einstein. Um, he was teaching a class, and then he wrote multiplication. He started the class and then wrote multiplications by nines or sevens or something like that. I think it was nines. Nines on the board, starting 1 to 10, 9, 18, whatever 9 times 3 is. I wasn't good at math. But when he finally gets to 10, 9 times 10, 90. But he wrote 91. And again, this is story, so take it with whatever grain of salt you choose. But the class started laughing, teasing on him, picking him, stuff like that, because he wrote down the wrong answer. And he made a point to the class. I got every other equation in that sequence correct except for one. And the only thing that you're making a big deal out of is not that I got 9 of those problems correct, but the one that I got wrong. It stands out. And
that is a perfect metaphor, honestly, Toshi.
Yeah.
I will say that I can't play the Frontier at all. Like, if I if I boot it up, I start to get like this pit in my stomach. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just like
it's
kind of reliving.
Like there's no.
I don't want to compare it to PTSD, but sometimes it kind of feels like I have Frontier PTSD.
Well, I mean, there's no other way to describe it. Like you're clearly talking about a sense of dread and a pit in your stomach, like, and it's related to a specific event or situation. Like that is almost textbook PTSD. And it's not just like something that only soldiers get or survivors of traumatic instances. Like there's a lot of stuff that can trigger PTSD or PTSD adjacent feelings and stuff like that. And especially with you were there for probably a comparatively brief
I was there for the shit. I was there. I was in the shit. I was the only person like actually trying to maintain a sense of order in the channels and everything.
Yeah.
And it certainly took its toll on me. But back to the point I was getting to there. Like, I can't play the Frontier anymore, but I will say that the amount of good content in the Frontier, just by the nature of how large in scale it is, it vastly outweighs all the bad stuff.
Oh yeah, easily. Like the map is very well made, except for the big ice area. I'm not a big fan of that.
So most of it then. No. I think I know the one you mean. You mean the one where the Crusaders take you to their nuke silo, right?
Yeah, like that part of the map's kind of weird, but everything else is pretty decent. I, as a Portland native, would have had a couple of comments to give to them regarding important locations, like the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry, the Ground Control Arcade, the Lloyd Center, which I actually have a friend who is a mod in my Discord. His father was the owner, or was the operator of the ice rink at the Lloyd Center Mall for damn near 20 years. And there's no ice rink in the game.
It's
TG Spy.
it's quite literally just Camp McCarran filled with snow.
Yeah, it is. But like whatever. But yeah, the point is, for as many bad things as there are, there's easily like at least one or two good things for every bad thing. It's just that those
easily.
bad things are just very bad.
Yeah, and the bad things, I mean, as you said with the Albert Einstein equation metaphor, the bad things are the only things that end up getting focused on. All of the great content, the handcrafted stories that people have put in for even just individual characters like Lot or Donovan, they just get thrown to the wayside in the light of controversy and
Custom weapons
the
and
bad
armor.
aspects. Oh god, like 140 weapons added by
bricks. You can just pick up a brick and bean some nerd in the head with it.
You see that brick? You can throw it. That is the most Portland thing in the entire mod.
Damn straight.
Oh yeah, it's I mean, every mod has their faults. The Some Guys series has a lot of faults. Fallout New California has a lot of faults, but they also have great aspects to them.
Yep.
And there's a mole rat attacking your stuff in the distance.
I'm sure it's fine.
I'm sure it'll be fine. If it makes its way up here, it's a new guest star.
Right. Special guest. What as a modder, you've done a lot of projects, you've been involved with a lot of projects. What specifically what kind of advice would you have for people looking to, get into modding? Maybe they want to help out, well, twofold. People freshly getting into modding, or people who have been modding for a while and are looking to be a part of a larger project, like, helping out with wrapping up London, building up Cascadia, maybe jumping into something like, like Project Ashfall. Wait, does Ashfall take place in New Vegas?
Ashfall is a New Vegas mod, and I believe it's taking place on Hawaii.
Yeah,
with an active volcano.
Yeah, that's going to be dope. But for like I said, for new modders and modders who are looking to advance into like larger projects and stuff, like in general, like those two parties, what sort of advice would you have for them as somebody who has been involved in modding, and more so specifically been involved in larger project moddings?
Well, I mean, I might be a little biased by personal experience, but my first and foremost recommendation when it comes to getting involved with large modding projects is don't. I mean, it's really up to your own discretion. It can be a great way to get work, whether that's major work or simplified work. I've got a couple of friends who have done art for London, like magazines and stuff like that, which I can't wait to see because their regular content output is just gorgeous. Mm-hmm. But really just go with what you are most skilled at. And don't be afraid to try new things, but also don't be afraid to abandon an idea if it doesn't seem like it's going to work out. Like there's a lot of things in the Frontier that did get cut, actually, that were just feature creep, like we discussed earlier. A good example would be the Lapin Companion. Right now, you just find it on a workbench and you repair it, and then it's a little robot dude that follows you around. But back in the day, you had a segment where you had to sneak it past a bunch of turrets and robots deeper in the facility and get it to the area that you were in by crawling through a vent. And that was cool and unique. It was also broken as all hell, and it's a good thing that got cut. But it also had a lot of work put into it. And that's another thing about getting involved in major projects, is you are going to put a ton of work towards a lot of things, and those things will get abandoned. Those things might not be well received, or if they are well received and there's some other controversy in the project, it might end up never being commented on, and the mod project is abandoned forever, and nobody ever gets to see your content. I kind of think you need to be prepared for disappointment if you're getting into a major group modding project, because if you don't prepare for disappointment, if you think you're too big to fail, and if you think that everybody's going to be super excited for your mod, because everybody was super excited for the Frontier, then it is going to crush you when they hate it.
What I never properly know how to phrase a question like this. It always sounds so hokey and cheesy, and it's kind of, I always try to like put sort of a reflection on it, like, you've done this, you've been through this, you've been a part of this, you've experienced that, and the other thing.
I developed the Frontier, and all I got was this shitty t-shirt. Yeah. It's funny because I do have a t-shirt that has the Frontier logo on it.
They made merch and stuff.
They made merch exclusively for the devs, and you will never catch me wearing that thing. I'm going to hold on to it until it's like 2050, and then I'm going to be like, oh, unique Fallout the Frontier dev merchandise. $1 million, please.
Put it on Twitter and put it on eBay in a couple years. But to the point, you know, I mean, you've been involved with a lot of stuff, specifically the Frontier stuff in general. Like, what, like, how, what, God, what ought one to do in order to lead a good life?
Holy shit, that was a good question to have trouble phrasing, because I might have some trouble answering that. Find the things that make you happy. If you are happy and you are fulfilled, you will live a good life. And I mean, sometimes it takes a bit of experimenting to find the thing that makes you really happy. For the longest time, the thing that made me really happy was booting up Fallout New Vegas, playing it with a ton of mods. Nowadays, I enjoy going on hikes. I enjoy going on nature walks, and I enjoy playing Fallout 76.
And going on nature walks in Fallout 76.
That's part of the reason I love it so much.
It is an interesting game, where it started and where it is now.
I like that aspect of it. I like really being able to see a true evolution of the experience. I go to areas that I went to 4 years ago, and they're completely different now.
Mm-hmm. Like the crater.
Yeah, especially the crater. Crater's probably the most notable example.
Yeah. It's weird it's funny how things change over time, you know?
It's like that Paul Rudd gif. Look at us. Who would have thought? Not me.
Not me, indeed. Thank you for listening to my interview with Phobos, leader of the Outriders and former developer with Fallout of the Frontier. If you wish to learn more about Phobos and to keep up to date with his modding and social media engagements, link to all of his socials will be found in the description below. If you enjoyed this episode of the Atomcast, the best way you can show your support is to consider becoming a recurring Patreon member, as your monthly contribution will go towards improving the quality of transmission, allow us to put out episodes more frequently, and will help to sustain these recordings long into the future. For now, though, I once again thank you so much for listening, and I will see you all out there in the wasteland.